It is 5:01.
Jim, I want to say I'm on the road, so if I suddenly am gone, it's because I had to drive.
Whatever. Yeah, whatever. Great. Well,
Okay.
thank you for signing in.
Of course.
The first item on the agenda is that was a call to order. A discussion of possible action on July 13th, 2020 Public Works meeting minutes.
Yep. So Deb had just sent those out this afternoon, so I don't know if anybody's had a time to review them.
I did not see him. Jim, have you or Sarah seen him at all?
Oh, sorry. I sent the new link.
So I mean, if the members haven't had a chance to review them, could they postpone and approve those meeting minutes at the September meeting?
I think so.
Let's move the table the minute.
Okay.
Second.
Move to table the minutes to the next meeting. Moved and seconded to table the minutes of the July 20th, July 13th to the next Public Works meeting. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Next item of business is introduction to funding street improvement through transportation utility fees.
Yeah, so I'll take the lead on this one, and then Dean will be able to chime in because he's been doing some of the legwork on this. So, you know, in the packet, I did attach a memo from the League of Wisconsin Municipalities. A lot of municipalities are looking at alternative ways to fund their road projects just because cities are strapped with levy limits, and you know there's not enough money that's accumulated through assessments and grant funding, so on and so forth. They're just budgeting to take care of all the street needs, right? I mean, you're all aware of the needs in the community and how far behind we are. So this is just kind of a starter conversation, an introduction to what a transportation utility fee is. Like I said, it's become more and more prevalent in other communities, and Aaron had reached out on the listserv to ask other communities what they've been doing and the ordinances and so on and so forth. So it's a pretty detailed program. It's something that you just don't whip together. It takes time. There's studies that need to be done. There needs to be justification for the fees. You know, it needs to comply with the state statutes, but communities are able to do a transportation utility fee, much like a stormwater utility fee. It's just making sure that the language and fees are airtight so that people can't, challenge them. So with that being said, Dean, maybe just kind of introduce what they are, you know, the reason behind them, kind of the process to even getting them installed here.
Yeah, so the transportation utility fee is essentially something that you charge different uses of property, like for example, a single family residential or a grocery store or a office building, or something like that, based on the amount of trips that they generate in a typical day. So and then that's supposed to capture essentially the impact of said property on the entire, the system, so to speak. So that being said, a single family residential house generates about 10 trips a day compared to Walmart generates thousands of trips per day. So the fee that's charged is proportionate to the amount of trips that are generated per day. So how we get the numbers to find out what the rate is for each of these, single family versus Walmart, that kind of thing. The Institute of Transportation Engineers puts out a trip generation manual. They're probably updated every 3-4 years or something like that. That has a whole bunch of trip generation rates for a whole bunch of different types of properties. That just kind of compiles a bunch of studies together that various people have done over the years to average them together, get kind of a trend of, okay, so for office building, based on the average of these studies that we've done, it generates whatever amount of trips per 1,000 square feet of office space. So, so in general, that's kind of how it all shakes out. So the information that you need to collect for the calculation of this fee kind of depends on the type of property that you're looking at. So residential, for the most part, is just a unit. So each single family house will be one unit residential. Usually for commercial, industrial, office type uses, it's per 1,000 square feet of area of the building. So that being said, there's a lot of data collection that goes into it. We as staff started talking about this earlier this year, so I've been doing some legwork in figuring out a guesstimate as to how much of each type of property we have in town, and then kind of once you get that information in there, you can kind of start playing around with if you charged whatever per daily trip, then you would generate whatever per year for the trips that are generated. So we got a lot of the legwork done. It's I should say that the legwork is based off of information that we got from our municipal assessor for the square footage for a lot of the commercial industrial building types. And residential is just kind of counting up houses on the aerial kind of thing. So we move forward with this, there'll be probably more detail we have to collect just to make sure we got our numbers correct. But we got enough information, I think, to have a conversation about how much we could reasonably collect depending on how much we charge per trip. So yeah, there's some alternatives to this fee. First of all, there's special assessments, so you could assess for various projects. Right now, our assessment policy is pretty light, so to speak. So when we do like curb replacements, we charge half the cost to the abutting property, and we eat half of it. Sidewalks are the same, 50% generally. But we don't currently charge any of the pavement work, like repaving or seal coating or anything like that, which, as you can imagine, is a bulk of a construction project for a street, is that kind of thing. So right now, our assessment policy collects essentially about 10% of the project for reconstruction projects. And less than that for something like a mill and overlay or whatever. And a seal coat project, we don't assess at all. So just in the back of your mind, have that in there. That's not to say you can't change the assessment policy. You could assess essentially whatever you want, as long as you're able to show that the value you assess, like the property is benefited by that amount. So that's one alternative to this. Another alternative would be to implement what's called wheel tax. And that would be essentially just an annual fee for that's charged to each vehicle when you register it every year. When you renew your tabs or whatever, they collect a wheel tax. So it's just an annual fee based on vehicle ownership. So that I think you can get up to $20 per vehicle per year for that option, which is something, but not a lot. The other thing the other alternative would be to fund things out of property taxes or bonding, which obviously we've been doing for the most part for quite a while. And I know there's lots of levy limits and all that good stuff. That's complicated to have to do. And obviously we also have been going for grants and whatnot too to help as well. Can't really rely on those, so to speak, though, because they're competitive, and well, everybody else is going for them too. So,
So Dean, when you're doing some of your legwork, can you just give the committee just an example? If let's just say we would charge a residential unit $5 a quarter, because I believe it'd be quarterly, and it would go on a utility bill, I think.
Mhm.
Do you have kind of an estimated number of what a $5 transportation utility fee would generate for the city?
well, I did per $5 per month, so
$5 per month.
it'd be
Okay.
15 per quarter, right?
Okay. Yeah.
Based on my, whoops, I can bring this up here, but I just kind of wrap this up today just to get an idea of where we're at with that.
Hey, Sarah, could you go on mute?
Yes.
You keep stealing
Yeah,
the
I can.
picture.
Okay.
Thank you.
So assuming like a single family residential is charged $5 per month, and then kind of extrapolating that to the rest of the land uses, could collect about $1.7 million per year, which is, you know, a decent amount. And I can obviously, I chose kind of the $5 per month number to just kind of, you know, $5 a month is a fairly easy number to swallow, and it's also an easy number to multiply up or down with. So if you double that to $10 a month, you double the amount you get essentially. So it'd be $3.4 million. You know, kind of it goes that way. So
Yeah.
Is that $5 a month for all units, or is that just for the residential?
that's just for the residential. So I did look to, you know, if you kind of compare, I actually looked at a few different different types of properties. So assuming that same $5 a month for residential, that equates to, based on the trip generation rates, it equates to 53 cents per average daily trip. And so you can use that 53 cents and multiply that for the rest of the land uses. So I'll just go through a few different alternatives. One that I looked at is a generic 1,500 square foot office in like the downtown area. That would be about $7.74 per month, or almost $93 per year. A general 1,500 square foot downtown shop would be about $30 per month, or $360 per year. 3,000 square foot sit down restaurant, like in the downtown area, like say Agave or San Pedro's or something like that, is about the same, about that square footage. So that ends up being about $178 a month, or a little over $2,000 per year. McDonald's type restaurant as a drive-through that generates a lot more vehicle traffic ends up being about $1,250 a month, about $15,000 per year. Yeah, and you talk about some of the largest generators, like say I looked at Walmart, based on the square footage there, ends up being about $2,500 a month, or $30,000 per year. So you start kind of talking about these really large numbers, but you kind of also need to go back to, you know, this is 53 cents per average daily trip. So if you think about like Walmart, they just need to somehow get 50 cents extra out of every patron that comes there during the day to make it even out. So, you know, you think about $30,000 a year, that's a lot of money, but 50 cents per person that comes into their store isn't so much. So just keep that in the back of your mind. So,
but at least it gives the committee members just a reference point to start from. Obviously, this is, you know, the current climate that we're in, with the pandemic and the unknown with the budgets, revenue, so on and so forth. And then the water utility impact fee just being passed, although it's for new construction. But obviously, we're very keen to the current climate, and this is probably something that we wouldn't bring forward just yet, but we just want to introduce it to the committee members as an alternative option as we move forward and try to, you know, play catch up on some of our infrastructure needs, that this option is out there and that other communities are using it, and that it would be a possibility for us moving forward. So
Yeah, I just want to give an example too. Like the city of Neenah is like one of the first ones in the state that implemented this, and they're about the same size as we are, maybe slightly larger than the city of Hudson, but close. And they essentially did away with what they were doing for their special assessments and just replaced it with this transportation fee. So there's a lot of communities that have kind of done that as well. So special assessments are difficult because they hit you like kind of all at once. So you have like 5-10 years to pay off however many thousands of dollars bill. Say it's $5,000 over 5 years is $1,000 a year as a single family residential. That's a tough pill to swallow. And not everybody can afford that. I know I would have problems affording that if they redid my street in my house. So so to spread out everything over supposedly infinite period of time makes it a lot more easy to handle for everybody who's income limited, especially.
So does any of the community members have any questions for either Dean or I off the top of your head? Otherwise, like I said, we can certainly, as we move forward and you want to see this, progress, obviously, Dean, I don't know, when you do the actual like trip generation, would we have to bring on a consultant or any professional company to know you'd be able to do that in-house?
No, because we have all the trip generation rates. It's just a matter of getting the correct building square footages and stuff for implementing it. So,
right.
And I don't know that we need a consultant for that. It'd just be staff time to have to either dig through as-built plans or measure things, or I don't know exactly. Just essentially, you just need to get the measurements, and then we can pretty easily make the calculation. So,
okay.
Well, one of the advantages I see is it starts to address the special assessment thing, which is, Mike, you've talked about that being an issue for sidewalks, for expansion of sidewalks, and I see it as an issue for alleys that cost the people on that alley a lot of money once we start doing that work. And they're it may be major users, but not the only users. And it does start to push some of the costs towards the people who generate a lot of traffic, which are the larger properties, the Walmarts, the businesses that are generating a lot of trips, which leads directly to wear and tear of our facilities. Mm-hmm. So I think it's quite saleable and rational approach to spreading the cost of maintaining the city beyond just the residents or beyond the property tax, so I think it's a really valuable approach that we really need to take a look at. Mm-hmm. What's the and I know it's this would have been an iffy thing without the coronavirus this year. So just selling it. So bring us all together. What's the appetite at the staff level? How far should we go? I guess that's a question I should ask with this year. Do we want to develop a better picture, a bigger picture, and introduce it at some point, say maybe after the budget, November, December, January, we introduce this to start the thought process with the aim at perhaps we can implement it next year. Is that a timing sense that works for the staff and for you and for the other members of the committee as well?
Yeah, obviously, Jim, we would want to present it to council, like you said, probably after the budget, like you're saying, December, January, and have them basically direct staff to start working on this. I would want to have them in the loop and have them approve staff. Obviously, it's going to take a lot of legwork to put together go out and measure all the buildings, stuff like that. And we want to have supportive council that this is even a remote possibility before we spend, a couple months on developing generating the data necessary. So, obviously, Dean, like I said, we've reached out to a couple other communities. We can continue to kind of put together a package, and then maybe we shoot for, December, January, just another introduction to the council at the council level, get their feedback, and if they approve of the idea and direct staff to continue to work on it, we'll continue to work on it. So,
Yeah, I will add, however, that I know Aaron has reached out to me about talking about this very soon, like Monday.
oh, okay.
So I'm not sure if that's good or not. That might be worth talking to Aaron about. I think we have enough information to introduce it, but I'm guessing it's probably not going to be able to be implemented for like next year's budget anyway. So I don't know where I'm at on that, but
yeah, we can talk to Aaron. I don't want to bring it to council too soon and just have a visceral reaction, say no, we don't want it, and then it just kind of it's gone, right? Because I think this is the really viable solution long term for the city.
Yes.
And I'd hate to just squelch it, but just by bringing it to the council at the wrong time, I know this upcoming meeting is going to be challenging enough the way it is. So just something to think about. But we can touch base with Aaron and maybe put it back. If he wants us to bring it to council on Monday, we can. But
well, the other piece of this is why are we talking about this? And that's from last week's meeting or last month's meeting, where was it last month or 2 months ago, where we presented what it would take to upgrade all of our facilities up to date, up to speed, above 4 or 5 level, to get the maintenance done, get everything at the appropriate level. So that was a big dollar thing. So it's if we want to do this, or if we want to expand sidewalks, or if we want, here are the projects we're looking at, things that we need to do. We've got bills for what it's going to take to get alleys fixed, and what it's going to take to expand sidewalks, which is a desire, but
yeah, that's a good point, Jim. It should almost be presented as a package deal, kind of what we talked about last month, and then you here are the needs, here's an alternative way to pay for it, and kind of present it that way, right? Get more buy-in.
Yeah, I will say too that I have been updating the numbers that we talked about last month, and have got some more information that I think we'll talk about next month, as to kind of the things we talked about, like flattening out the cost, and as switching to a 30-year time frame rather than a 15-year time frame, and that kind of thing. So we can talk more about this next month, but I do have some more information on that. So.
All right. So I guess my recommendation is staff we'll reach out to Aaron. Probably not. Well, Council Jen's got to be posted on Wednesday. We'll have to reach out to him tomorrow at some point in time and just get his initial reaction if he still wants us to bring it forward to council on Monday, or if he wants us to wait to maybe that first meeting in September and do more of a thorough presentation. And we can kind of talk. We can center it around capital improvements, so on and so forth. But I just want to make the committee aware that we will be bringing this forward to council for further review.
Yeah. So. I don't think this is not a 5 or 10 minute presentation.
No.
It's a pretty big shift, addressing a huge issue. So we need to be able to. It's almost like it's a workshop issue, not a council meeting issue. But I don't know. So float that by Aaron as well. How do we best do this? That's my concern. I'm only speaking for myself, I guess. Paul or Sarah, what are your thoughts around the concept and how we might move forward or not?
So my 2 cents would be I'm very open to looking at it. I think we need more funding for the street repairs we've talked about, and we're way behind. On the flip side, I think it's a very tough time to be proposing this when so many folks are out of work. They're doing furloughs from COVID-19. So I think we have to be really careful about this. Even the estimate, Dean, that you were talking about for the $5 a month would generate 1.7 million a year. That's probably not the starting point I would recommend. I think I would phase this in slowly over a course of a few years to give people the idea and get them used to it. So I think there needs to be some transition. If I understand the packet that was sent out too, there was a case, it looks like in 1994 with St. Bridget's versus, what is it, City of River Falls or something like that. And it sounds like River Falls won that, Mike, from what I was looking at.
Yeah,
So,
that's what I kind of heard.
Yep, so it looks like you can charge this fee to churches, but I guess one of the concerns I have is churches are really hurting financially now too, because they're not able to, meet with their regular membership or whatnot. So I would just have some concerns about the timing and how we kind of roll this out. But I would say for sure, Dean, to go forward and keep working the numbers. And I guess what I'd like to see is, different columns or different options. If it was, $2 or $3 per household, what does that look like with the other, with the other thing? Some of those numbers on the businesses, that's pretty high. Some of the numbers you were talking about, I think with Walmart's or even the McDonald's. So I don't know if there's a way to mitigate that or whatnot too. So maybe there's something, I don't know the legal end of it. Kathy would certainly need to look at that, but
Yeah.
But my big picture is, I think we need more funding. I think if this is a solid legal means to do it, by all means, we need to go forward and do some more study. But I'm just concerned about kind of how it gets rolled out and when. If that makes sense. So.
Okay. Good points. Sarah?
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. All right. Great. Just a couple of comments. First, I want to just say thank you for being proactive and, doing the legwork on this up front. We are, I agree. We're desperate for some solutions. We're, really underfunded and have been for a long time. So now it's time that, I feel like we're paying the price of previous decisions, and it's, it continues to frustrate me, from the air conditioning report to the city hall to our sidewalks to our roads. It's kind of frustrating being the ones that have to face the hard decisions. And now when we're doing it at a turbulent time with this pandemic and all, it's tough and it's frustrating, but here we find ourselves where we are. And I do think that we want to fit polish this so that when presented, we can get good buy-in. And if that's, a rollout over time, as Paul has suggested, or some smaller number that's more manageable during a time of uncertainty, whatever it is it takes. But I guess I would hesitate to rush it to council this coming Monday because it seems like we need a little bit more spit polishing. We need a little bit more information, and you really have one opportunity to get it right. If it gets a pushback, and then people are like, absolutely not, that's not what we want to do. We don't need another line item on our utility bills, blah blah blah. I would like to hit the slow down a little bit, do it once, do it right, as far as the presentation of it goes. And then, oh shucks, I had another comment that. I agree completely. I was right on board with you, Dean, when you were talking about, $5 a month residential and, a little bit for the retail shop and a little bit more for the restaurant. But then when we're talking about, what was going to happen to a McDonald's or someone like that, I'm not really sure that those kind of dollars, that sounded pretty high to me. And I don't know, I know they make more money than the rest of us, but I don't know I don't have any idea what kind of budget they can sustain, but they do obviously, they cause more wheel miles on the roads. So, that's true. Someone should be paying for the cost of getting their customers to their, to their drive-through, and that's a reality. But I don't know. I guess I would just mention that as one of my concerns, that those numbers sounded to get really high really quick when you're listing out the various business types. But overall, I'm really really behind this idea, and people will know, I understand we're going to, any kind of change is going to get enormous amount of pushback, and we understand that. But when it's like, hey, we all got to pay for the road that is in front of my house. For example, I'm on First Street, and if I get assessed for the road work in front of my house, I'm like, yeah, well, wait, there's a lot of people that drive on this road. I'm not, we're not the only ones, are the ones that live here. So it makes more sense to me to spread that around. So anyway, I guess all in all, you've got my full support, and my biggest concern would be, I don't want to push it up to the council level too quickly. If it needs to spin around a little while before it makes its way there, I would be all for doing that.
Okay.
So thank you everybody for your comments. I got a couple of follow-up things. One thing is that I've been thinking about how to deal with like the effect of truck traffic on our roads. And if you look at research, the fully loaded semi-truck wreaks about more than 1,000 times the damage on a road as a single car does. And I'm trying to figure out, with this, we may, may be able to set a different rate for truck trips versus car trips, and that could equalize some of the industrial versus the McDonald's drive-through kind of thing, because industrial properties don't generate a lot of trips in and of themselves, but the trips they do generate are a lot of trucks, which destroy our roads. So that's one thing we can think about as we move forward with this. And then I think in the future, kind of emphasizing like the point that Sarah made, that each of our streets, the people that live on that street are really, they use it obviously, but they're about, half the people that use the street or less, so to make somebody pay for all the improvements to the street out in front of them it's a interesting argument, and one that I don't really like to make. So
I think that would be part of the packaging of this.
Yeah.
That you don't have a special assessment. I think
Mm-hmm.
most people would say, oh, I'm willing to put in the extra few dollars a month, knowing I'm not going to get some, multiple $1,000 bill in the future when they tear my street up. So I think that's a really good point, that we're kind of all in this together. It kind of mitigates the risk in a sense. So I think that would be I would put those two together before presenting. Let people know that special assessments are not going to be happening if we're going this route. So
Good point. Yeah, I think that's pretty powerful. The people on Vine Street are going to pay attention to that real soon.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I think we got what we needed, Dean. Unless there's anything else from the committee members. Are y'all good?
Yes.
Okay.
I am. Everybody else? Okay.
All right. Dean, you can, if you wanted to, you can stay on and talk about budgets. Otherwise, the rest of the agenda, we probably don't need you. It's up to you.
I'll stick around.
All right.
All right, Mike, the 2021 Public Works
Okay.
operating budget.
Before we dig into this topic, I'm going to say my goodbyes, and I will watch the rest of this on YouTube later on. I am very sorry to miss this conversation, but it's where I'm at right now.
All right, Sarah.
All right.
Okay,
Thanks,
thank
Sarah.
you. Bye.
Bye.
Paul, I assume you can stay on.
yeah, for sure.
Okay. We
Okay.
still have a quorum.
Yep. So this is obviously I alluded to this earlier. This is probably going to be the easiest budget I ever put together. I didn't increase a single line item in there. Obviously, I put in my issue sheet that I can hear Deb's phone. I put my issue sheet that the budget already has a 15% increase for health insurance, 2% cost of living increase, and then which obviously bumps the budget up tremendously without even me raising a single line item. And, I've been instructed to keep this as close to a 0% increase as possible. So I did start kind of nickel and diming some of the line items. Those were highlighted in green, the ones that I reduced. Go ahead, Jim.
No, that's good. I'm just, sorry. Agree.
Yeah.
Yeah, I got that. Good.
Yeah. So obviously, I started to nickel and dime it, decreasing 1,000 here, 1,000 there, 500 here, 500 there. Right now the current budget as presented tonight for Public Works is, increase of 1.46% over 2020. The only, like I said, that there really wasn't a major change other than kind of just reducing some line. Like I said, nothing was the one big change was to the salt line item, and that was reduced by 10 grand. Ice control chemicals in street maintenance, and that's because we have a surplus of salt from last year that wasn't used. So we're sitting really good. So I was able to kind of reduce the amount of salt that we were to order for this upcoming winter season, which means we don't have to budget as much for it because we're ordering less salt. So I was able to reduce that by $10,000, saving it there. Other than that, like I said, it's I didn't want to go backwards on our street painting, our spray patching materials, just because we worked so hard to get to a point where we're kind of feeling comfortable and able to do more striping, more spray patching repairs throughout the year. We upgraded our spray patching machine, so now we're able to do the double yellow striping in-house instead of contracting that out, which is saving us $15,000 a year from contracting that out. Our staff is able to do it in-house. So like I said, I just didn't want to go backwards this year. I just wanted to keep the status quo. Let's get through next year. Hopefully, we'll have some more answers as next year rolls along with the pandemic and the revenues that are being generated, and we're able to move forward from there. So other than that, like I said, it's pretty simple, pretty straightforward this year. Nothing real major.
And just running through it, the only one that worried me was the salt, the ice control chemicals. So now with that explanation, I'm comfortable with that.
Yeah, the operating budget, like I said, is fairly easy. I think the Public Works Committee and I have expressed more concern over the capital improvement plan with the more capital projects, the street maintenance, the alley maintenance, the sidewalks, the trails. That's more of I would say higher priority, but a much larger discussion for increasing, right? We know that has to increase. So I'd rather have a conversation on increasing that side and just kind of keep the operating budget status quo, just move it forward. And then hopefully next year we get a better understanding where we sit. So if that makes sense.
Mike, I thought you did an outstanding job putting this together and really looking at some of the areas to try to make up for that increase, the 15% increase you're talking about. So I just credit you. I had two just really quick questions. One is on the personnel page where the budget goes from 90,000 up to 161,000. I'm guessing that's the engineering position. Is that what I have a note on page 17? I think is what's on, but I think that's the engineering piece, right?
What is it under? Is it under administration, Paul?
If you go to page 17 of the packet,
of
the packet for tonight, it's not really.
All right, hold on. Yeah, so that includes Dean's salary.
So I was thinking, okay. And then other question, I think the answer is probably no, but you know, we maintain that Highway 94 and State Highway 35, right? And that was kind of a line item, it looked like when I went through there. Do we get anything back from the state ever for like the chemicals that we use on those?
No, we don't.
I didn't think so, but okay, I just wanted to clarify that. So,
Yep.
yeah, I mean, those are my only questions. I think I have no problem. I think it's outstanding. I don't know with COVID-19 whether the 1.4% increase is going to be doable by the time we get there. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't know on the revenue side, like what we're taking in with the sales tax or whatnot. So,
yeah, obviously, I mean, this is kind of the first go around. I wanted to bring in Public Works Committee, just got to get your initial thoughts. But I mean, if we bring it to council at our budget workshop, and you know, it's a hard 0%. Obviously, each department's going to have to look at chopping some line items, and we'll just have to reduce some services for next year, and that's the way it'll be. So I mean, it's a starting point, but obviously, I think there's some room still in the budget to reduce it to get to 0.
Yep. Are you looking for formal approval of the budget as presented here tonight?
Yeah.
Okay. I would move to approve the Public Works budget as presented here.
I would second that motion. Any further discussion? All in favor? Aye.
All right. And then the final agenda item is discussion and possible action on request by Hudson Boosters LLC, Hudson Boosters Club, to extend the lease at 1150 Cratley Lane North, Village of North Hudson. So this is a facility it's not a park, and that's why it's on Public Works Committee, because it's City of Hudson land. But this was this was leased by the Hudson Boosters some 20, 25 years ago. And the Hudson Boosters kind of took the baton and ran with it and developed this piece of property into what it's become today, which is, it's a youth athletic complex. There's some baseball fields there, restroom, dugout, so on and so forth. And their current lease expires October 1st, 2020. And they reached out to the city expressing interest to extend the lease for another 20 years. They pay an annual lease of $10 a year. And the reason being is the City of Hudson doesn't have to touch the facility at all. So they mow it, they maintain it, they spray it, they clean it, they do everything there. And so if they weren't there, the city would have to go in and use staff time to go in and mow it, so on and so forth. So that's why the lease is so low, just because they pay for all the utilities, electrical, so on and so forth. So that's been the expense or the lease agreement since the inception of this, agreement. And I would recommend just keeping that as is moving forward. And the reason they're going to a 20-year lease over a 10-year lease, which has been in the past, is they're looking to do either some further improvements, possibly some lighting, and they just want to have some peace of mind that, it's not going to change in 10 years with a different council or a different director, or so on and so forth. They want to have a peace of mind that if they still kind of put money back into the facility, that it'll be there for a substantial amount of time.
And that was going to be my question about the 20 years. And then Deb, maybe you can help me. How does the City of Hudson own that land? Because it's up in North Hudson. Like, does anyone know the history of that?
That was all the landfill property. So it was all landfill. So it's buildable. There's nothing that you're ever going to be able to do out there besides that. So that was part of the landfill property. So we have the other part of the property for public storage. Right, Michael?
Yep. So it's the old landfill. And so we have the actual cap landfill, and then the athletic facility, and then the City of Hudson has a couple of cold storage buildings on that site as well that we use for just storage of materials and extra equipment. So
right, I'm just curious, like, did the Village of North Hudson ever own that, or was it always owned by the City of Hudson?
It's always been owned by the City of Hudson. They were but it's I think it's in the village, considered in the village of North Hudson, but we own the property, I believe, because it was municipal landfill.
Okay.
I'd have to look a little bit further, but
Yeah, I have no problem. I would move to approve the lease agreement with Hudson Boosters as presented.
Okay, I would second that for the purposes of discussion. Well, one thing that came to mind, because we just went through this approval process with the Hudson Boosters about youth baseball at Grandview Park, and about what their expectations were about how they would deal with the coronavirus requirements. And I'm assuming that if they lease this land, do we no longer have any ability to state how that's used or the conditions? Is that,
no, I believe
and do we need to have this reviewed by Catherine? I guess is the other part of that.
that's where it came.
It would be reviewed by Catherine before it goes to council. Yes. As far as your first question, Jim, I would have to look through the lease in more detail.
Yeah, I was just kind of
Perusing through it yourself.
perusing and not seeing.
Well, it says the lease is in the event the leasee fails to develop the premises for outdoor recreation as specified in paragraph 5A and B within the 5 years from the date that they terminate. And that was at that time.
So you're saying,
Yeah,
Jim,
Yeah,
we
this
should,
was written in a different world.
yeah, we should almost change the lease to include that the city of Hudson still not jurisdiction over the property or a say of jurisdiction over operations, or
Maybe what we should do is just send it back to Catherine with those ideas, and then maybe she could draft some new language or something.
okay.
A paragraph maybe to put in there. So
Yeah, that's a good idea, Paul, because we still have another month and a
yeah,
half.
we have some time, and it's the old contract there. So maybe we should really be looking at a new one anyway. So
We can't edit this one. I don't know.
It's done by typewriter. You can't edit it. You have to bring out the old.
Jim, I don't know. I want to, Jim. I think I formally withdraw my motion. Is that what I do?
So do you want to do a motion just to recommend the city? Oh, you just want to withdraw it totally?
Well, withdraw the last one because I don't want to vote on the last one.
All right, and I agree with that.
Okay.
So
We would want to
then
pass this
your
on
new
to
motion
Catherine.
would be,
Well, I think the motion would be just to pass this on to Catherine to look over and to add some language where the city of Hudson would still have some sort of oversight in terms of how things operate there.
the public health concerns. We just give this Catherine as a general issue and see how do we,
Yeah.
can we, should we?
Control, yeah.
Yeah, she'll know the language. I mean, all that's legal, so I don't think we're kind of fishing in the dark here, but.
Right. I'm sure the number of pages is going to triple. This is written.
But I have no problem at all with the concept because in a sense, the Boosters are kind of running our Parks and Rec, the rec kind of part of it, right? And so they're saving us a ton of staffing and organization. So I think I want to support Hudson Boosters and make sure it works out for them. I just think we have to get the language right. So.
Yep. No, fair enough. We'll do that.
Okay.
I agree, Paul. All right.
Is there a motion and a second on that?
Giselle.
Do we have to do a motion to send it on to Catherine, or can we just recommend?
No, you just withdrew it.
Yep.
The attorney is part of that second withdraw and recommend.
We'll do that. So we'll probably bring it back to September's meeting with the alternate language.
That sounds good.
Okay.
And finally, project updates. So, is that what's next?
Yeah, so there's nothing listed on the agenda. However, Dean, I see Dean is still on the call. Lucky me.
That's why
Dean,
I
you want
stayed for you, Mike.
do you wanna rifle through some of the projects and give the committee just a quick update on them?
Yeah, sure. So, got a number of projects going on right now. First one I'll update is the Vine Street reconstruction in conjunction with the Bella Rose or Atwood property. They've been making good progress out there. They've got the road mostly curbed. The base course of asphalt pavement went down for most of the street today. We had some issues with some of the curb being in the wrong elevation, so we have to figure that out before we finalize it. But yeah, so that's plugging along. We're hoping to get the road back open after the new lift station is operational, which is scheduled right now for the 18th of August. Then there's a couple days after that they gotta hook up the force main, and then they're gonna complete the curb work and pave the final. They might actually open that up to traffic before we pave the final layer, but so it's looking like, in about 2 weeks or so, it'll be open again, if that. So I appreciate the contractor really mobilizing to get that done, because that's really important. And I know people are being patient with us in the detour, but we don't want them to have to be driving past Jim's house for much longer. So,
And Dean, just to clarify,
Yeah.
we're widening Vine as a result of having had it torn up early, kind of?
We are widening in the sense that we're adding some turn lanes into the Bella Rose property. We're not like expanding the road to 4 lanes or anything like that, but we are adding the turn lanes into the property at Annabelle Way at the north end of the property. And then we're also extending the right turn lane going from Vine onto Carmichael. So that should help, especially with school traffic in the morning up there. And then related, we also have some improvements on Carmichael Road that are going to be happening after Vine gets reopened, or kind of in the process of Vine reopening. Also adding turn lanes into the property off of Carmichael, and then also reconfiguring the north leg of the intersection at Vine and Carmichael to add a left turn lane for that leg. So, so the project itself, it'll linger after that, after Vine Street opens up again, but we're looking at probably a month and it'll be all done, that kind of thing. Vine Street will be open for school traffic. There will be some stuff going on out there while school traffic is going, but it won't impede, ability of school buses to get through or anything like that at that point. So,
because we still got to start the work on the north leg of that intersection that has to be expanded. So,
yep. So that's that project. Any questions on that one? Other than those that were asked?
You said you're looking at 2 weeks probably to reopening, is that right?
Yeah, something like that. We theoretically could reopen Vine Street after the base course gets paved, but we'd only be opening up for like 3 days before closing it again. So we didn't really want to
confuse people.
Yeah, psych people out. Suddenly it's open and then it's closed again. So I figured it was best to just leave it closed since everybody's used to it right now. So moving on, we've got our mill and overlay project on industrial and stage line. The contractor is still working on finishing up some curb replacement pieces. That project has been going a lot slower than we had hoped, but they're wrapping up the curb work here in the next week or so, and then got to patch in the curbs, and then they'll be looking to mill off the pavement and repave again. So, the project has to be complete by the end of August per the contract. So, yeah, the next 2.5 weeks, that one will be done. So, and then we just are kind of in the process of completing the street maintenance project. for the chip sealing portion of it. All the streets that we had in the contracted chip seal have been chipped. They were working on sweeping up all the excess stuff today. We got a few calls on that. So when I left work at 4 something, I drove through Wisconsin Street, and they were working on sweeping up Wisconsin Street as I was leaving. So either by the end of the day today or morning tomorrow, they'll have that all done. There's a couple more steps to the process. The next step would be that there's a fog seal that goes over top of it. That kind of locks in all the loose rock and stuff. And so I haven't gotten an update from the contractor yet. They were supposed to have gotten back to me today, and I don't know what happened there, but probably end of this week is when we're looking to do that work. And then shortly after that, the lines will get restriped on the streets that have them. And then we'll pretty much be done with that project. So they'll be checked off the list.
Sidewalk curb project.
Yep. The sidewalk project. We're having a pre-construction meeting this week. So that project it's supposed to be done by the middle of October. So that one, they're going to probably get started here in the next week or two with replacing some sidewalk portions and curb panels mostly in the kind of downtown area, historic area part of town, focused on replacing a lot of the worst tripping hazard sidewalks, and then some bad curb on 2nd Street downtown in advance of the state's project going on. So that one should be firing up here pretty soon. Any other ones that I forgot, Mike?
Yeah, what about the pipe at the Webster Park? Remember that big pipe that Zappa's working on? How's that going?
Yeah, so Zappa, they were in there. They dropped off some fill material. I touched base with them today, and they're looking to start here mid to late this week as far as getting the pipe dug up and reconnected. So at least when it does rain again, we kind of dodged a bullet here this last weekend. A couple storms missed us, so I was very fortunate. But at least get the pipe hooked back up so that if it does rain, that it doesn't continue to wash the hillside out. And then work on the dirt work from there, because a bunch of trees that need to be cleared out of there and dirt pushed back up the hill. So
okay, thank you.
Yep. Dean, just one last.
Oh, yeah.
On the chip seal projects, got some feedback on Hagen Street that maybe, and I don't know if this is true or not, that our timing around when we did the intersection going across the 94, that timing was bad, like at rush hour.
Yeah.
So I'm not sure if that's true or not, or if that's just people's perceptions. But
no, I think that one was pretty true, and there are a few things going on there. First of all, they were shooting to get out of that intersection by 3:30, and they ended up getting to that intersection about 3:30. So yeah, so that timing didn't work out very well. So I think in future projects, we're kind of we've got a list of things to change for future projects with this, and one of them being that I think we need to be a little more specific in some of those high volume, high impact areas if we end up doing this in those areas. Make sure there's certain hours that they can be in certain intersections, that kind of thing.
Yeah,
so
okay.
Avoid as much of the headache as possible.
Yeah.
Okay, so document those issues so it's if they miss their plan, it's on them, not on
right.
us, our planning.
Right.
Good.
The last project, Dean, that I'd like you to update the committee on is just the Ward Avenue extension.
Okay. So that one is kind of by the back behind Target, essentially. So Ward Avenue is getting extended from Hillcrest to Hillcrest, essentially. So they've been working on utilities out on that project this week. They're plugging away out there. I believe they're supposed to be done with the whole project by the middle of October. So they're still on track for that, I believe. I haven't focused as much on that one. There's a lot of other things going on, but I'm due to check in with our inspectors out there to see exactly where they're at with that stuff. But so far as I know, that one is plugging away and on track. So
Good.
Yeah, they're moving dirt.
yep.
Good. Okay.
Very good. Thanks for your work, gentlemen.
Thank
Anything
you.
else?
Oh, I will say too, the 2021 state project, they have, they're in the process of getting the plans finalized. They want our signature on certain things, but they didn't change some stuff that we asked them to do. So we're kind of going on a back and forth on that. But hopefully those plans will be finalized here shortly, so that they can go out for bid in the time frame that WSDOT needs them to. So it's plugging away.
Is there any other business? I entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second, all in favor?
Aye.
Thanks, guys. Have a
Yeah.
good night.